episodes. No, never got one complaint about that. I got several complaints about the bricks in this story, the bricked facts. Anyways, this is my favorite episode because of the second story. The second story, we saw the introduction of something that I really enjoy doing, but it's super time-consuming on my end. The interactive story. The Adventures of Lucky Boy Mine, or The Haunting of Lucky Boy Mine, is the first time I did an interactive story, and I absolutely loved it. That aside, just the gimmick of this episode aside, this story was one story that I had in mind when I started doing the podcast. Like, I remember reading this story back in the 1990s in that book, The National Directory of Haunted Places, and thought it was one of the scariest ghost stories, true ghost stories I had come across. A ghost that murders people. So this was a story that I just knew off the top of my head at some point I was going to cover in the show. I don't remember why I decided to do the interactive adventure, and I haven't done it many times since because it's super time consuming on my end. One thing I love is particularly about my Choose Your Own Adventure on the... Oh, sorry, that's copyright. One thing that I love about the interactive adventure was you actually hear me backtrack. I start telling a story and I go, no, that's not spooky enough. And then I start it over again and I leave that that thought process change in. I really love this story. I love the story itself. I love the legend of Bodie Mine, or Lucky Boy Mine, I'm already forgetting, but I think it was in Bodie, the city, but I love the story itself. I gotta pat myself on the back. I love the way the narrative is told. I think there's very creepy parts of it. And I feel that this episode had my best sound effect ever. The fight where the guy's drowning, spoiler alert. I don't want to toot my horn too much. You guys, it's building up to this now. When you guys hear it, you're like, this honestly, like, again, it was a total off the top of my head to do this. I remember doing it and editing it and thought I'll never come up with a sound effect that cool again. Like, it actually sounds like you're there. Maybe I'm tooting my horn a little too much, but this episode's one of my favorite episodes. It's the birth of the interactive adventure. I'd like to do at least one a season, but again, they're really difficult. It's the birth of the interactive adventure. It's a really good ghost story. It's funny. It's scary. I got a bunch of complaints about the first thing, which can tend to make an episode stick out. I still remember all those brick-related emails. So sit back, relax, prepare to choose a number, and listen to episode 144. Can you survive Lucky Boy Mine? It's the start of Spooky Ghost Week. Ooh. First, we're going to go to a college where the ghost of a young woman still plays the piano late at night, and it has implications that are scarier than you think. And then we take a trip to a haunted mine, but not just any haunted mine. This one allows us to do an interactive adventure today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you're having a great day too. It's the beginning of Ghost Week. I actually just came up with that idea. I did a bunch of research this weekend, and I came up with all these great ghost stories. Because I was reading a book on ghosts, I came up with a bunch of stories in general, but I have so many stories about ghosts. I think we'll make this a theme week. Now, not every story is going to involve ghosts, but every episode will have a ghost story in it, culminating with Friday being one of our, and I always say this, that it's the most requested topic, but this one here is actually the most requested topic from the Conspiracy Iceberg. We're going to cover it Friday. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I will give you a hint. It involves ghosts, but it's more than that. But let's go ahead and jump on in to our first story for Ghost Week. Now, this one is interesting because a lot of times when I poo-poo ghost stories, I start to bring in physics, like, how can a ghost stand on a boat? Like, wouldn't they fall through the boat if the boat was moving? Wouldn't it fall off? Like, I'm constantly trying to figure this stuff out. Can a ghost be in an airplane? Is the airplane taking off? They're like, no, wait, and they just haunt the runway? Like, how does ghost physics work? And this story kind of gives us an idea of what it could be. But before we get into that part of the story, so there's two ghosts that we're going to cover in this first story. So there's a college in Arkansas. So we're gonna go to Arkansas, you know? We're gonna put the Carpenter Copter aside for right now. We're gonna take the Dead Rabbit Dirigible again. Now, first off, I'm not gonna do that stupid sound effect joke again, because it totally failed. I listened to that episode a couple days ago, and I was like, that was a stupid joke. But it's there, it's recorded, whatever. And I want to let you guys know, actually, I did an episode on the Ghost Blimp, and there was a YouTube commenter who made a remark saying, now I know why you use a helicopter instead of a blimp. And it was funny because he put this little nugget in my head. Later on when I invented, I mean, the Dead Rabbit Dirigible is real. It's totally real. But later when I remembered I had the Dead Rabbit Dirigible, I was like, wait a second, that guy, so I am a naming guy with the headphones. He is our co-pilot for the Dead Rabbit Dirigible. And we're going to take this dirigible all the way from Hood River. Okay, we're going to go to Arkansas. It's 3 years later now. It's 2022. The blimp is incredibly slow. Anyways, we're in Arkansas. We're specifically going to Harding College. So get your college books, get your number 2 pencils and your Scantrons, but then put those away because we don't need those. We're just going to walk around college. So we're at Harding College. I'm sorry you already bought those school books. You can return them, you'll get half credit. But anyway, so we're at Harding College now, and we're going to meet a ghost named Gertie Sue. Now, Gertie Sue is one of those ghosts that I'm not a huge fan of. They just kind of walk around. I always thought it was boring. Ghosts in a white dress walking down the really compelling or scary or anything like that. And you're like, well, Jason, why are you wasting my time and telling me a story like that? Because it's not the main part of the story. Shut up. Don't interrupt me. It's not the main part of the story, and I think her origin is hilarious. So, to cut to the chase, she is a ghost who there's like a brick path along Harding College. And her ghost will walk through the college and like, you know, just kind of like walking through at night. But anyways, her ghost just walks around campus. You know, looking, she's at Starbucks. She's like, oh, come on, man. Where's my stuff? She's at the food court. She's like, oh, this food's disgusting, but I don't want to leave campus and lose my parking spot. And everyone else is like, she's basically Slimer at this point. I'm basically turning her to Slimer. Her origin story, let me get to it. Her origin story is, she woke up one night. She's like, oh, so tired. I need to walk down the hallway for some reason. She's like walking through the halls of her dorms late at night. She's like, oh, I'll just keep my eyes shut as I'm walking through here. It's not like I believe I'm going to become a ghost. Falls down an elevator shaft. Now, you might not find that humorous, but I find that I've realized doing the show that 90% of people die in ways attributed to Looney Tune characters. Like, how hard does it have to be to avoid a giant hole on the third story or second story or whatever it was of a building? Of a door-sized, multiple human hole. How hard is it to avoid that? But she just walked into an elevator shaft and fell. Now, the couple problems I have with that is you don't just walk into an elevator. You're just not like, hey, Barry, and like phase through the door. It takes a lot of effort to open up an elevator door. Now, I had heard that story before, and I read it a couple times when I was researching this. Then I found another version, and they're like, there was a black they totally sexed it up. They're like, all the girls in the dorm heard a piercing scream. Ah! They left out the squish noise and heard a piercing scream, and as one of the girls ran out of her room, she saw a dark figure run away, and all that was left was Gertie's broken body. That didn't happen. Come on, that didn't happen. You're just making that part up. Now they're just trying to add a murder plot to it. No, that didn't happen. That wasn't sourced in any other article. Gertie, you just fell down an elevator shaft, down a hole that never moves. The second ghost, however, is far more fascinating. Also at Harding College. This happened in the 1930s. Now, you know, the thing with Gertie, people have said that they've seen her, and that story may or may not be true. This story also has probably some faults in the telling of it, as far as how factual it is, because we don't have things like names and stuff like that. We just have a vague time, like the 1930s. But again, it's a very, very interesting story. It's kind of out of the normal ghost stories we hear. 1930s. There is a dormitory. No, they didn't have an elevator, as far as I know. There's this young woman who falls in love with a young man. Now, she lived on the third floor of the dorm, but it was an all-girls dorm, so you couldn't have boys over, but, you know, you could have some fun, a little sorority sexiness. pillow fights and pajama parties, and maybe, you're getting a little too drunk and you're like doing the flapper dance. It's the 1930s, so they're doing the flapper dance and the girls are getting a little too close, but the room feels heavy and hot. Just things happen sometimes. It doesn't mean anything. Young 1930s eventual ghost woman, it doesn't mean anything. It's okay. You're just experimenting. You're in college. But my fantasy aside, the real story is that there was this girl that, as I kind of wandered off into dreamland, there's this young girl who falls in love with a young boy. She goes to Harding College. She's in her dorm. Her dorm's on the 3rd floor. But she would meet up with her boyfriend. I'm assuming they just held hands. That was considered a home run back then. But he died tragically in a car accident, and she was just completely inconsolable. She kind of broke off all of her social contacts, and on the 3rd floor of this, now I'm thinking it might not be a dormitory because there is a piano up there, but we'll just assume, just for the sake of the story, the point is that on the 3rd story of this building, this young forlorn girl that may or may not have been her dormitory played the piano all day long. Super, super sad piano music. That was just the only way she could console herself. So she's up there, she's playing sad music, she's playing the theme song to The Incredible Hulk up there, and people are like, that's really catchy. She should try, selling that to a TV show or something. And people are like, what's a TV show? It's the 1930s, and they start doing the flapper dance. Anyway, so she's playing this sad piano music on the 3rd floor. That's all she ever did. Now, again, this is a point where I have to ask a question as a skeptic. They didn't kick her out of school? They just let her keep attending school, and they're like, hey, you need to come to your classes, and she would play 1 key for yes and 2 keys for no, and she's like, dong, and they're like, whoa, sorry. So, obviously, they wouldn't just let her play the piano all the time. She'd have to go to classes and stuff like that. But a couple months later, she mysteriously died, and the implication is that she died of a broken heart. So again, there's some factual problems with the story, but this is a legend at this school. She's up there, she plays the piano all day long, she's super sad, she passes away. Now, they say to this day, on the 3rd floor, you can still hear slow, sad piano music. Every so often, it's not all the time, you're not trying to steady, it's like, it's not like that. Every so often you'll hear a sad piano song. But here's the interesting part. That building was completely torn down, and now there is no 3rd floor. It only goes up 2 stories. So the building was torn down, and when they rebuilt it, they're like, we don't have to build it that high. They got lazy. They're like, there's a bunch of awnings still set up, and they're like, whatever. The building's only 2 stories high, but people on the 2nd floor will hear music coming from the sky above them. Before the building was torn down, people would say the music came from the 3rd floor, and now they say the music is coming basically from the roof. That's an interesting event because you don't see that happening a lot in ghost story. I'll come across a story every once in a while where something like that happens, where they will have a building that is burned out and there'll still be a ghost in the area that originally was haunting that house. But the idea of a building actually different way and the ghosts still haunting the original location of the haunting, that's very, very rare. And I think this is the only example off the top of my head I can think of. Top of my head, I'm looking at notes, but there's 1 or 2 more that I've heard of. But in all of ghost lore, it's very, very unique. And to me, that makes it a little more plausible. The area, if you believe that the area that you haunt is the area that you haunt, whatever is done there shouldn't matter. So if a bunch of people die in a church and you build a museum on top of it and the ghosts haunt the museum, people are like, well, yeah, because the church burned down. But if you have someone on the 3rd floor become a ghost and then you raise the building, build up another one, and it's coming from the air, that would also logically still make sense. So ghosts don't stand on stuff. But here's the scary thing. Think about 9/11. Are there a bunch of ghosts 80 stories up just wandering around? And there's just nothing there anymore? They have that new building, but it's not the exact same profile. Could you look out your window late at night, 3 in the morning in New York, look out your window with a pair of binoculars and see a guy in a business suit doing his daily routine, just walking around in the sky? That's creepy. It's a creepy idea because it totally offsets how we think of physics and reality and spatial things and stuff like that. So I thought that was really interesting. I really like that story. But I had to get through the elevator falling person first because I just thought that was hilarious. Okay, so now we're going to move on. Oh, and I wanted to say this too real quick. There is a Twitter account called the Cafe and Diner. It's at Cafe and Diner. If you are into paranormal stuff,